Hello, everyone. It is Will, aka MLS Moves. Please make sure you like this video down below and subscribe to the channel if you are new. Hey, MLS playoffs is finally here. We got the bracket challenge pulled up. We're going to make our predictions for who we think is going to win each series all the way up until the MLS Cup champion. It's going to be a very fun, exciting time, especially if it's as good as Decision Day was. Decision Day was a blast. We did a 4-hour stream for the Eastern and Western Conference for Decision Day, and I think that type of excitement could be replicated and even amplified just because this means more, and it's going to decide the champion of the league. So I'm very excited to see what happens, and I think it's going to be a very, very fun MLS Cup playoffs, and there's a lot of teams that could win it. I think that there's a lot of quality teams that can win this the trophy this year. So it's going to be fun to see what happens, and I can't wait to fill this out and see what you guys think. You'll have to comment down below and let me know if you agree, disagree, and who you guys have winning the 2024 MLS Cup. Now, starting off with the Western Conference, the first match is going to be the play-in. It's going to be between Vancouver and Portland. I think Portland's going to win because they have a player like Evander, a player like Jonathan Rodriguez, where Vancouver has really stalled the last couple weeks. And I just don't think they have the horses for this race. I think Portland's a better team. I think that they have been playing better than Vancouver has lately. And I just think the momentum is in their favor. I have Portland winning the play-in match between Vancouver. So that means they will play LAFC in the first round. Now, let me preface this. The first round of the MLS Cup playoffs is a best-of-3 series. Each team will play one game at home, and if a third game is necessary, the higher seed team gets the third game. I think LAFC will sweep Portland in the first round. I don't think it'll be close because their depth is just superior to Portland. They have better players than Portland, and they're more experienced in the playoffs than Portland. And I'm not sold on Phil Neville as a manager. So I have Portland losing to LAFC in the first round of the MLS Cup playoffs. I think it's going to be a clean sweep, 2-0. I don't think that Portland will win a game, and LAFC advances to the semifinals. Now, moving on to Seattle and Houston. Now, this is a very interesting match. I think that these are two very similar quality teams. I think Seattle obviously struggled at the beginning of the year. They couldn't really score any goals, and they were terrible. They weren't even qualifying for the playoffs the first couple weeks of the season because of how poorly they were playing. And they found a way to get things going. And Brian Schmetzer even was, there was talks about him potentially run his experiment with Seattle running its course, and maybe they needed to move on in a new direction. And had he stalled. But he was able to figure it out, and they're made the playoffs, and they're one of the higher seeds in the Western Conference. So they're a team that's definitely competent enough to win a playoff series, but they're playing Houston. Houston has made a lot of investments, and Ben Olsen was a manager that I personally wasn't sold on. I thought he underperformed significantly with DC United. He was there for a decade. I wasn't high on Ben Olsen, but he has proved me wrong, and Houston has been a very competent team, and it's because they've invested money. They got Hector Herrera. They got Ezequiel Ponce. Carrasquilla is a very good player. They are a good team, and I think that this is one of the series that's going to go to best of 3. I have Houston winning this 2-1. Houston will advance over the Sounders 2-1 in the first round of the Western Conference playoffs. Now, moving on to the next matchup is RSL and Minnesota United. This is another good matchup. Two teams that are pretty close evenly in quality, but I think that Pablo Mastroeni is a more proven manager than Eric Ramsey. I think that RSL has more talent than Minnesota United does from top to bottom. And I like Diego Luna's playmaking ability, X-factor ability. He's been playing really well. He's my young player of the year in Major League Soccer. And hopefully gets a USMNT call up soon. But, that's a whole separate topic or a video we'll do on that. But I think that he's been playing lights out this year. And we don't know if Pukki is going to be able to play for Minnesota United. They've been holding him out. I don't know what his status is. But a lot of reservations about Minnesota United. I actually think that this is a series. I think RSL is going to win this series with a sweep, 2-0. I think RSL is going to win over Minnesota United in the first round of the best of three in the MLS Cup playoffs. Now, moving on to the Galaxy in Colorado. This is an interesting matchup, too. Now, if LA Galaxy hadn't choked away the first seed against the Houston Dynamo in the 100th minute with their former center back Daniel Steres scoring the game-winning goal, they would have played Portland in the first round based on my predictions. Colorado is a matchup for LAFC that I would not. LAFC, I think, could have really struggled against Colorado. I think that's a team that could definitely punch above their weight and cause an upset. Now, I think the Galaxy match up better because they have more horses. They got Peck, they've got Push, they've got Joveljic, they've got Paintsil. Now, their defense is definitely a liability, but Colorado doesn't really have they just don't have the firepower, I think, to really win this series. And also, Jordi Mihailovic looks like he's injured and will not play in the first round, at least in the playoffs. I don't think the Galaxy will sweep the series, but I think that they will win it 2-1 because they don't really play well on the road, but they play good at home. They haven't lost a game at home. That's why that was so detrimental for them not to win the first seed in the Western Conference to be able to control their own destiny. But I have the LA Galaxy beating Colorado Rapids 2-1 in the first round. Now, moving on to the Eastern Conference, we have Montreal and Atlanta United. Atlanta United and Montreal is a very lackluster play-in round because Atlanta United had a fire sale this summer. They sold Thiago Almada, they sold Caleb Wiley, they sold Georgios Giacomakis. They were really building for the future rather than trying to win in the immediate. Now they signed Miranchuk and a couple other players, but this team really isn't assembled to compete for an MLS Cup right now. And they snuck their way into the MLS Cup playoffs, which happens when 9 teams out of 9 teams in a conference qualify. That's what happens. Some bad teams slip through the cracks and make it to the playoffs. And that's exactly what happened here. I think Montreal is going to win. I think Joseph Martinez has been playing really well lately, and he's been good form. And I think that Caden Clark's been playing really well for Minnesota he played for Minnesota United, but he's been playing really well for Montreal. And I think that Montreal will beat Atlanta United in the play-in round of the Eastern Conference. Now, Inter Miami, on the other hand, will beat Montreal in a series pretty handily. Miami was down 2-0 to New England and scored 6 unanswered goals. That's just the firepower they have. And I trust Messi to take care of business, and Luis Suarez and Busquets and Alba and Tata Martino. I think that they will handily sweep Montreal in the first round. I'm not really worried about that. And they will advance to the semifinals in the Eastern Conference playoffs. Now, moving on to Orlando City and Charlotte FC. I think Oscar Pereira is a good foundational manager in Major League Soccer, helping bad teams become respectable. But I think he has a lot of deficiencies where he can't win the big game or advance in the playoffs. He's shown this in FC Dallas, and he's shown this at Orlando City. Charlotte FC, on the other hand, has Dean Smith, who is a very organizational manager who is defensively sound. They've only given up 37 goals this year. It's very tough to score on them. And I think when you have the best goalkeeper in the league and Kalina, it's going to be hard for Orlando City to score. So I think Charlotte FC is going to beat Orlando City 2-1 in the playoffs in this series. I don't think Orlando City is going to get swept. I think they'll win 1, but I think Charlotte FC will win the series 2-1. And it'll be interesting to see what Orlando City could do. I mean, they have Nico Ladero, Luis Muriel, they have Facundo Torres. They need one of these guys to step up. I just don't see it happening. I got Charlotte FC winning the series against Orlando City SC. Now, moving on to FC Cincinnati and New York City FC. Cincinnati really started to struggle at the wrong time. Obviously, it was unfortunate for Matt Miazga to be injured earlier in the season. Best defender in the league, at least last year. It's what he won. They don't have a striker. Lucho Acosta got hurt at one point, and it took a while for him to really regain his form. I just think this team has a couple holes, even though they are pretty sound defensively. I think that they have a lot. They have too many key pieces that are missing. They don't have their best center back, and they don't have a striker. It's really hard to advance far in the playoffs when you don't have those two positions locked in. Having said that, New York City FC, on the other hand, Nick Cushing, I have no faith in him. This team obviously has a lot of talent in Martinez and Rodriguez. Maxi Morales is a veteran presence, but I don't have faith that Nick Cushing can lead this team to the promised land. So I think Cincinnati will win this series 2-1 over New York City in the first round. Now, the final Eastern Conference first round, Columbus Crew versus New York Red Bulls. Now, they played this weekend. The Columbus Crew were up 2-0. Red Bulls were able to pull two back, tie it up, and it looked like they were going to get a draw. But then Columbus were able to score late in the game and win the game 3-2. I think this is a very good matchup for Columbus. I think the games will be even, but I think Columbus will probably sweep the series just because they're a better team on paper. They have a better coach. New York Red Bulls were supposed to add a big name player this summer that fell through. I don't think Lewis Morgan and Emil Forsberg is going to be enough to prevail them in beating Columbus Crew, which is arguably the best team in the league. I got Columbus winning the series in a sweep 2-0, advancing to the next round of the semifinals. Okay, so here's what gets interesting. The semifinals is where it's single elimination. So this is where it gets interesting. It's win or go home. LAFC versus Houston in the second round or the semifinals of the MLS Cup playoffs. I think LAFC will win against Houston because, like I said, they have better depth. They've been here before. They have a lot going for them. And I think that I just don't think Houston has the roster to beat LAFC in the play. Especially after a three game series against Seattle, they just don't have the depth to really be able to continue their run. I think LAFC will win this match, but I think Houston's definitely building something to where they could possibly be one of those teams. They could be maybe a Houston or a Columbus of the West next year with the pieces that they have. Now, moving on to LA Galaxy and RSL. LA Galaxy, like I said, are undefeated at home. It's a do or die game. RSL is definitely a good team, but they have not played as well as they did at the beginning of the season. I think LA Galaxy have better players. They're going to win. I think that they will win handily against RSL. Now, moving back to the Eastern Conference semifinals, like guys, Inter Miami has a lot of attacking talent. Even when they're down 2-0, 3-0, they have the firepower to come back. Charlotte's not a team that's going to be able to win if it's a shootout, if it's a scoring fest. Now, can Miami score on Charlotte? Can they pour in the goals on Charlotte? I think they can, even though Dean Smith and Kalina have been very, very effective in not conceding goals. But I think Miami is the hottest team in the league, and they're going to be hard to stop. It doesn't matter who they're playing. So I got Miami advancing over Charlotte FC in the semifinals of the MLS Cup playoffs. Now, moving on to Cincinnati and Columbus. This is going to be interesting. Hell is real matchup in the semifinals of the MLS Cup playoffs. It's win or go home. I'm going to have Columbus win this match because of what I said earlier about Cincinnati's deficiencies, the center back issue, the striker issue. It's going to be really hard to stop Cucho Hernandez, Diego Rossi, Wilfred Nancy, just being a tactician that he is, and winning MLS Cup last year. He's been here. He's done that. Columbus is a tough team to beat. Morera is one of the best center backs in the league. Now, he wasn't my defender of the year, but he was close. He was probably number 2. And Patrick Schulte is just such a good goalkeeper. I think that Columbus just has a better team from top to bottom. I think Columbus is going to win in the semifinals against the FC Cincinnati. Now, here we go. Here's the conference finals. This is kind of the best of the best, probably what most people's predictions are going to be for the MLS Cup finals. Before I give you my picks, I want to ask you, who do you think is going to win between these matchups? And do you agree with what I picked so far? Am I crazy? Am I out of touch? Do I know what I'm talking about? Let me know in the comment section down below if you agree with my picks thus far in my bracket challenge. Now, here we go. El Trafico in the Western Conference Finals. Can you imagine how great that would be from an entertainment aspect or, perspective? That would be a very entertaining El Trafico match. Now, this will be at LAFC. We know the Galaxy are really good at home, and LAFC do struggle at home a little bit. So this could be, an interesting matchup. Now, I said earlier in the third installment of El Trafico, whoever won that game was going to lose in the playoffs to the other team if they met. So the Galaxy won that match. So that would imply the LAFC would advance if they did meet up in the playoffs. But I just think the LAFC and Dolo don't perform in big games. And I just got this feeling about the Galaxy this year. I think the Galaxy are on a mission. They have the attacking talent. They have the wingers. They have the goal scorers. I don't think that this is your Chris Klein LA Galaxy anymore. I think that this is a competent, competing team that can realistically win the MLS Cup. I got the LA Galaxy winning. I think the LA Galaxy are going to beat LAFC in this fourth installment of El Trafico this year and make it to their first MLS Cup since 2014 when they played the New England Revolution and won, which is hard to believe it's been that long, especially for the team that has the most cups. But that's just how that's what happens when you have poor leadership at your club that's, not pushing the club forward and making bad decisions that hold them back. And on the Eastern Conference side, we have Inter Miami and the Columbus Crew, two heavyweights, arguably the two best teams in the league. Messi and the Barca boys versus Wilfred Nancy and the blue-collar, hardworking, not as well-known names, and the Cucho Hernandez, Diego Rossi. Obviously, MLS people know them, but most people aren't going to know them, especially as much as the Barca boys, right? This is a tough matchup. This is a true coin flip of what it could go either way. But I just think that this Miami team is on a mission. I think Messi, if he's healthy, if Luis Suarez is healthy, they are going to be a tough team to beat. And we saw them beat the Crew already, 3-2. I have Inter Miami advancing over the Crew in the Eastern Conference Finals to make it to the MLS Cup final. It's going to be the LA Galaxy, Inter Miami MLS Cup final. How would you guys feel about that matchup? Would that be, obviously it'd be a ratings dream for the league, but how would you feel about an LA Galaxy, Inter Miami MLS Cup? That'd be crazy, right? Now, for the winner, right? It's going to be at Miami. They make it to the MLS Cup. It's going to be LA Galaxy at Inter Miami. I'm going to pick Inter Miami to win the MLS Cup because LA Galaxy don't play as well on the road, and they're going to have to travel all the way from Los Angeles to Fort Lauderdale. And I think that that's going to be their undoing because of the travel, and they don't play as well on the road. Now, I don't think it's going to be a blowout. I think it's going to be a very exciting, instant classic MLS Cup final. But I just think that Miami is the team to beat. They're the favorites. They're the league darlings. I think that they got Messi, right. That this team is equipped with everything they've done to win MLS Cup. And I think it's win or bust for this team. Supporter Shield is not going to cut it. So I think Inter Miami is going to win the MLS Cup this year over the LA Galaxy. That's my predictions before any game is played. This could age poorly, but that's what I think is going to happen. And I'm curious what you guys think is going to happen. What do you guys think, or who do you think is going to make it to the MLS Cup final? It's going to be interesting to see. And this is not the end of the coverage. There's going to be several other videos covering what's happened, adjusting predictions. Predicting the next round of who actually wins. But this is exciting times. MLS Cup is playoffs is here. It's going to be fun. It's going to be exciting, and we will see who wins the trophy this year. So, yeah, guys, make sure you like this video if you enjoyed it, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Remember, We're trying to hit 5,000 subscribers before the end of the season. And I think we can do it with your help, especially with the support you guys have shown us. So make sure you subscribe and share this video with a friend. And I appreciate it. And we're going to have a lot of fun. This is going to be a very exciting time. So until next time, guys, I will see you all soon.